Paul Mills, Wichita State men's basketball coach, joins us on the IHOP hotline. Coach Mills, welcome.
Jason, nice to be here.
Well, we're happy to have you. It's basketball seems to be in the air today. I'm feeling it. A little cooler outside, a little blustery, a little wintry. You've been going for a little bit. How are things looking?
Good. I mean, everybody is healthy. Everybody is eligible. So we haven't had anything significant happen that really would drastically shake up our roster. And practice is moving ahead and feel as if every day we're headed in the right direction.
So I don't want you to give away any like state secrets or anything, but I'm just curious about, you build this team and you look at it on paper and you probably envision how it's going to look, how it's going to play. Is there anything that you've seen now that you've seen this team on the floor a little bit and working together that has made you kind of change your original perception? Is there anything different about that?
There's always things I think that you're going to discover, things that you may think you know, and that turns out not to be the case, and then vice versa. I will tell you that based upon the practices we've had and then the times we were able to play in Greece, that we are a really good rebounding team. And that's always been important to me. The team that I coached last year was fourth in the country in defensive rebounding. And so rebounding is paramount in my mind in order to find yourself in the win column at the end of a game. But this is a really good rebounding team, not only from a defensive side where we're getting better, but we're pretty relentless on the offensive side and have a number of guys you're familiar with, Kenny Poto, Quincy Ballard, who do a phenomenal job. Isaac Abidi, I think, has made improvements there just based on percentages. And then one of the guys we were able to bring in, Dalen Rignall, is tremendous at being able to rebound the ball on the offensive end. So I feel really good about that specific area.
Coach, how much more difficult is it coming into the situation you're at where you're inheriting some players, you're trying to find some players? Obviously, you can watch on film and you can see them, but you don't know personalities. You don't know a lot of that stuff like if you're out of school for 3 years and you have guys returning and getting back. How long does it take you to kind of get into that mode, even though you're having to watch them play here and there, but actually getting to know everybody has got to be a little more difficult, I would think.
Yeah, definitely. And it's a daily learning experience. I mean, I've been married for 26 years, and there's some days I feel like I don't know my wife. And so, I'm around her a lot. And I think the same thing happens with players is there's maturation involved. They're getting better at a specific area. I've seen strides made during the 3 weeks we've been able to practice and guys and how they approach things, whether it be conditioning sessions or practices and their mindset and their approach. But, you obviously have a better idea the more you're around them. So I will tell you that I do pride myself on. That's one of the things that I feel like our coaches do a really good job of is being able to just gauge where players at and then making sure that they're growing at their specific skill set and from a leadership standpoint.
Wichita State head men's basketball coach Paul Mills, our guest. The Shockers play an exhibition game on the 29th of this month against Rogers State, home opener on November 6th against Lipscomb. So I guess the one position I'm most curious about is point guard. You certainly have candidates. How's that position shaking out so far?
Yeah, I've always been a proponent of you have to have multiple ball handlers on the floor. I mean, I think anytime that you look at it, whether it be a situation in Philadelphia with Tyrese Maxey and James Harden, whether it be a situation as they had in Portland with Dame Lillard and C.J. McCollum, if Bob is the only playmaker on the court, coaches aren't dumb. They're going to go get the ball out of Bob's hands and say, hey, you other four guys, try to do it. So I'll tell you that Colby Rogers is really good as a playmaker. His ability to get his own shot, his ability to find other people. Xavier Bell is really good in that specific area too, just being able to handle pressure. Harlan Beverly's a young man who came in from Miami. And then Bijan Cordes, even though, it's public info that we're kind of working through an eligibility issue at this particular juncture, but it's not a two-time transfer issue. So we feel really good about that. But I feel like we'll put multiple ball handlers and playmakers on the court at the same time. And it's important if you want to make offensive efficiency happen.
So I know you can't talk in specifics, but you have gotten commitments from a couple players that are seniors in high school, and I was just curious about how you plan on, building rosters moving forward. Will it be 4-year high school guys primarily that you focus on? I'm sure your door is open to every possible avenue for building a team, but how important are 4-year high school guys just to your foundation of recruiting?
Yeah, it's a great question. I mean, to be honest with you, we'll fill them with the best players possible. And, so much of this is, who do you like, and then who can you get? I may like a lot of people, but doesn't necessarily mean I can get them. Quincy Acey, one of our coaches, he's married. And so, but he was talking about being at the Beyonce concert and how many people just have wishes. And this whole idea of we're going to pursue things and people that we like, you could like somebody, but it doesn't necessarily mean that you can get them. So I feel really good about just where we're headed. I do feel that there are a number of high school players who may get overlooked just simply because people are paying attention to the transfer portal, and you get it, right? You understand why people are paying attention to the transfer portal, but it's a situation where you're trying to find the best players possible, and there are really good high school players out there that we will continue to pursue.
Coach, how difficult is it now to actually try to build a program with looking at kids from high school and thinking to yourself, okay, you know what, I got these guys coming in, I'm going to have them for 3 or 4 years, but now with the transfer portal, you could have them for one, teach these kids, make them look really good, and they decide to transfer on you. That's got to be tough as a coach.
Yeah, and the American, I was visiting Ron Hunter actually at Tulane, told me this. It is, over the course of the last 6 years, the American has been the league that has provided the most transfers of the 32 conferences. And people, for whatever reason, when you're able to produce at this level, don't stay engaged wherever it is. I was actually talking to Matt Painter about this at Purdue, and he said, I just wonder how many players are just missing out on an opportunity to create a legacy. One that Ron Baker and Fred VanVleet and people over the years that we're really familiar with in a Shocker uniform have been able to create simply because they weren't able to entrench themselves at that particular school or that particular city. So it is something that you talk about with players, with recruits, that, we plan on you being here for as long as you need in order to pursue your pro dreams. The majority of players come in wanting to be pros. We obviously want them to be pros, but they need to understand that there's a vision here that we need to cast in order for them to see it and eventually manifest itself in some form. But I do think it's important that players understand the bigger picture about the value of being entrenched and getting to know a specific school and a specific community.
Paul Mills, our guest. We're talking Shocker basketball. So, Coach Mills, what value do you put on three-point shooting? I think it's an imperative in the college game, and it's been a long time since Wichita State had a good three-point shooting team. The last 5 seasons have been subpar in that area. Is it important?
Well,
how important is it? And do you think this team will be a good shooting team?
Yeah, I mean, what's important is from the offensive end is offensive efficiency. Now, you're talking to a guy who coached a team for the last 3 years that was number one in the country at making threes. And people would ask me, is it intentional? And the answer is no. We're actually trying to get the best shot in basketball, which is a dunk or a layup. But as you know, people aren't just going to let you get those. So the more pressure you put on the rim, the more defenders you're going to attract. And can you make those passes on the perimeter when you're attacking the rim that lead to efficient shots? And, again, if I go 33% from three, if I go 2 for 6 from three, that's 6 points. If I go 3 for 6 from two, if I shoot 50% from two, that's 6 points. So you're scoring the same, even though your percentages aren't the same. And so I think what you have to understand, and players have to understand, is, are we taking efficient shots? We need to make sure we're doing the things that lead to efficiency. And 33% from three is the same thing as 50% from two. And we need to make sure that we're taking shots that lead to efficiency. Sometimes that involves a three ball, but we're not trying to take threes just to take threes. We're trying to really put as much pressure on the rim as possible. And then from there, the defense will kind of tell you what shot's the best shot.
So what do you think of, and what do you see when you kind of take the 10,000-foot look at the schedule this year? Obviously some very difficult games, but, at Oral Roberts you could win 25, 30 games, and it would basically come down to how you did in those last 3 or 4 to whether you were getting into the NCAA tournament or not. The wins on this schedule are potentially there. So what do you feel just when you think about the schedule that you've put together?
When I look at the conference, I said, man, the teams that we have to play twice. Florida Atlantic was picked first, so we'll play them at home, play them there. Memphis was picked second. We'll play them twice, play them in Coke, play them in Memphis. The team that was picked third, Tulane, we'll play them at their place. The team that was picked fourth, UAB, we'll play them at their place. So I was like, man, of the top 4 teams, all 4 of them were playing on the road, and only 2 of those guys do we get in Coke Arena. And so I haven't really looked at it from, what you mentioned earlier, a 10,000-foot view. I'm really just, man, what are the things we need to do in order to get better at practice today? But I haven't looked at the entire schedule. I haven't dove into it. I think that as the season goes along, you're aware that you have at least 4 quad one opportunities in all likelihood. You're mindful of that. And then you kind of see, man, how does those quad one games go? Can you ensure that you're not on the wrong end of a quad 4 game? And you kind of gauge as the season goes, like, what are your chances of getting an at-large bid? And it's great to be in a league that's going to provide a multi-bids. And just where do you stack up in the grand scheme of this? I do think that's a question you begin to ask yourself somewhere around the middle of December. But for now, it's just how do we get better at practice today?
Final moments here with Paul Mills, Wichita State men's head basketball coach. So you get North Texas, but they're coming here. You don't get to go back to Denton. How's that set with you for this first year? You don't make the return.
0 games in the state of Texas. And, you were hoping with 4 teams in the state of Texas, SMU, Rice, UTSA, North Texas, that you'd get a visit there at least once. But we're more stretched out towards you're going a lot of East Coast schools, and you were hoping some of your road games would involve some schools in Texas. But I'm not in control. North Texas is good. They're an NIT champion. They're picked high. They have 2 really good players who are all conference potential at this stage of the game. And Ross Hodge is a tremendous coach, and it's a pace. I know that they've played in the past that, they're trying to win a rock fight sometimes, and I'm not opposed to winning rock fights. So we'll have to be very prepared. But obviously, I would have substituted some road games to Texas rather than the East Coast if I had my druthers.
Coach, thanks for your time. Really appreciate it. We'll try to catch up with you very soon, okay?
Bob, Jeff, Jason, thank you guys.